Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into my podcast, Xena Life as a Dominatrix. This is episode 65. This will be published on Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. Before I begin discussing today's topic, I just want to mention that on all of my podcast episodes, you will see a link that states support the show today. And when you click on the link, it leads right to my Venmo page. So thank you all very much for supporting the show, tuning in, subscribing, spreading the word. It is greatly appreciated. Today's topic, let's talk about sex. And this will be also a little Q&A with C. Before I begin interviewing C, I just want to note that sex is healthy. Sex is fun. How often should couples have sex? Well, there's no set amount of sex a couple should be having. Research does indicate that having sex once a week is associated with greater relationship satisfaction. Or maybe you could boost your numbers up for 2 times a week or 3 times a week. And how often does our body need sex? Well, there's no correct amount of sex to have, and the best frequency varies from person to person. So not having sex for a long time should not have negative health effects. There's no right or wrong way to express sexual feelings as long as everyone involved is clearly consenting. How much sex does a man need? Well, when it comes to sexual frequency, what's considered normal or enough sex varies a lot from one couple to another. So on average, most people have sex once a week. However, there's nothing wrong with having more or less sex if that's what you and your partner prefer. It's totally up to you and your partner. What's a normal sex life? What's normal? So most people have sex once a week, like I said, and but more the merrier. So maybe set a schedule, like, hey, let's do it twice a week or 3 times a week or twice a day. Making time for sex is very important. It's healthy for you and your partner. And in a third study, it was reported that out of 16,000 adults interviewed, the older participants were having sex about 2 or 3 times per month. So what are the signs of lack of sex? The behavior and emotional signs of a lack of sexual intercourse within a relationship can include irritability, increased mistrust, body image concerns, negative thoughts about self and partner, worry, increased stress levels, a decrease in quality of communication. How often does a woman need sex? This woman, I'm reading an article, basically she craves sex quite often, but that doesn't mean that she should go around asking and begging for sex. Desires vary among individuals, but on average, a woman may feel the desire for sex about once or twice a week. Communication and connection with the partner play a significant role in fulfilling these needs. So if you're having negative thoughts about yourself, feeling very self-conscious, just get those thoughts out of your head. And sex is very stimulated, and it's stress relieving, it feels good. So get it in your head, hey, this feels good. Hey, this is a fun activity with my partner. It brings your partner and you closer and closer together. And regarding body image, maybe try sex in the dark. Or how about not even having these negative body image thoughts in your head? So perish those thoughts from your head and just embrace how you look and how it feels to have sex. But yeah, some people, they choose to have sex in the dark or in the light or in front of a mirror to watch themselves having sex, or recording themselves and making homemade pornographic tapes for them and the partner to watch together. And watching porn before sex can also be very stimulating and very exciting. All right, let's get to it. Hello, C. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me back.
So the last time I interviewed you for my little podcast was back in 2022. So I have a few questions for you. I wanted to get a male's viewpoint on sex. So welcome.
Well, thank you very much.
So how and what did you learn about sex while growing up?
So the first things that come to mind about sex and growing up when I was younger, I immediately think of Playboy magazine. Mm-hmm. And I think of the nude pictorials of this. These are the women in the 70s and the early 80s. So they're very naturally endowed. They have more curves and they are hairy. They have bushes. And this is like the attraction that I felt, this is the ideal women image, not ideal women, but like, this is what naked women look like. And also I think of rated R movies, watching rated R movies at home, and shower scenes, and boobs, and butts, and more hairy bushes. And I also know that when I was younger, I looked at a Playgirl magazine too. And I saw, muscular men with big cocks and a little bit of a bush. And I got yelled at by it was a newsstand. And I got yelled at. And then another time I was looking at a Playboy magazine at a photography store in my hometown area, and the guy behind the counter just kind of laughed that I was doing this. And I was with a parental unit, and they were embarrassed that I was doing that. And the guy was just, hey, he's at that age, that's what he's gonna do.
How old were you?
I was probably, I don't know, probably between 3rd grade and 5th grade, in that age. And then I know that I was, because the Playboys were, underneath the bed, mm-hmm. in the parents' bedroom. And I know that I was exposed to pornography at a very young age, where I was with my cousins. We went to a house, and they'd stolen a video from their dad's room, and they brought it there, and they put it on, and they were interested in these 2 girls whose house it was, and it was a movie called Debbie Does Dallas. And I pretty much just watched this movie, Debbie Does Dallas, and I think I was in 5th grade, and I don't even know what the fuck I was watching, but it was basically, people actually having sex. And then, I think Ron Jeremy had a bit part in it, like as, one of the classmates or something, in the shower orgy scene at the high school or something, where they were, and the other dudes, and then like they're shooting out this white stuff out their dick. Ew. And I've never seen that before. And then since this is a 70s porn, mm-hmm. or the early 80s, after they shoot the white shit, they'd shove it back in the bush.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was like, that was how it was done back then in those movies. But yeah, seeing this movie was, I had older cousins that had exposed me to stuff at a younger age, probably than I should have. And that was my very first exposure to sex, but I do know that I always love watching movies with naked women.
Currently too, right?
And currently too.
Good.
Yep. That hasn't changed.
Good.
And I still have a preference for movies from the 1970s where the women have a certain look.
Got it. Just the thought of Ron Jeremy. Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
pass.
That too.
I'll pass. I don't think I've ever seen Debbie Does Dallas to think of it. Maybe, oh gosh, I don't think so. I mean, I think that was, at the time, that was the it porno to come out.
It was one of them. So basically you have like Debbie Does Dallas,
Mm-hmm.
Devil and Miss Jones, Deep Throat,
Mm-hmm.
Behind the Green Door.
Wow, you know your porn.
I do. I've studied it.
And these were all 70s pornos, yeah?
These are all 70s and 80s
Mm-hmm.
and Taboo 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Taboo 2 and Taboo, that's where the whole MILF porn begins.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. And, oh yeah, I just want to mention that, yeah, shame on your cousins, because you were very young. You probably didn't know what the hell you were watching, so shame on them for, they kind of corrupted you think?
Oh yeah, I was corrupted. I was corrupted at a younger age.
Yeah. And you were very curious, so at that age, I mean, puberty was what, 13, 14?
Yep.
So all kinds of hormones are...
Oh yeah. Yeah, and I was mostly shy.
Mm-hmm.
Shy when I was in those years, and I didn't have a girlfriend. I didn't go out, no one would really go out with me.
Mm-hmm.
Even in high school, I didn't have, like, I think I can recall, like, maybe 2 or 3 kisses during high school.
Mm-hmm.
One of which was actually in a play, a stage kiss.
Aw,
Yeah.
that's sweet.
So yeah, I was inexperienced through almost all of high school and just like watching movies.
And what were you doing snooping in your parents' bedroom? How did you find those magazines?
Well, they were just in the drawer. There they were. It was May 1979 Playboy.
May, you
yep.
remember the month.
I did. I remembered it so
and
much,
the
I
year.
even bought myself a copy of it because it had the featured pictorial
Mm-hmm.
of the Miss World contestant who lost her crown.
Aw.
And then it had the Ladies of the Adriatic.
Uh-huh.
And that was like the big like sectional section. And then the other Playboy that I remember seeing was Bo Derek being photographed by her husband, John Derek.
Okay.
And she was on a boat, she was on a horse, she was on the beach, and she had the cornrows in her hair from the movie 10, so it was probably around like 1980 when she did that.
Wait, she was on a horse naked?
Yeah.
She was on a horse naked?
Yeah. It's always been one of her favorite things to do. Riding bareback.
Interesting.
Riding bareback, being bareback.
I have to check this out.
Yeah. But that issue I don't have.
Oh, not yet?
Not yet.
So, question number 2.
Yes.
So tell me about your first sexual encounter. How old were you?
My first sexual encounter. I was either 18 or 19.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember like what's considered the first sexual encounter, with a young lady. And I remember 2 encounters, but I'm not sure which one was first. And I think it was with a cast member in theater,
Mm-hmm.
where, there was a girl, she had a crush on me, and we just kind of did really, sweet, tender, kind of like first time makeout type stuff.
Aw.
Where, it was kissing first and then, taking off her bra and squeezing her breasts and sucking on her nipples, and and then her giving me my very first blowjob.
Aw.
Yeah. And it was, very, she was a little bit younger than me.
She's 18?
Yeah, she was 18.
Okay.
Yeah. She was still in high school, but she was 18, and I was a freshman in college.
Okay.
So, but it never went anywhere other than just kind of like innocent stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the time after that was my first time with an older woman. And that was when I was 20.
You were 20, and how old was she?
She was 29 or 30.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a big jump.
Yeah. And she was way sexually mature than myself. And I guess I was like, not intimidated, but excited.
Uh-huh.
But we only just fooled around a couple times and nothing really, it's just weird. Like the chemistry's not quite right, but that would probably be like the first, time or something. And then, and it just I was a late bloomer, so to speak.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. Yeah, when I was in high school, I dated somebody that was 17, and I was 14, and my parents were like, he's way older. You should be with somebody your age. And they did not approve of this guy. And then he turned 18, and of course it was very, it lasted for 2 weeks. It was not like a real boyfriend, but just make out. That was my first make out in high school. And but I'm like, oh, he smoked, and oh, that taste of nicotine in my mouth, ew, gross. So, but I think, yeah, my first real make out was probably age 14, I think, if I could remember.
Yeah, but I remember back then too, all the girls smoked.
They smoked?
In the 90s. Yeah, they all smoked, especially when you were, going to parties and, making out or fooling around. They all smoked. They all drank and they all smoked. And when you kissed them, the tongue, you'd feel that burnt piece of flesh. And it was kind of a turn-off. Yeah, it was not into women that smoked.
Yeah.
And you could taste their burnt flesh of their tongue. I was like, oh, this is what smoking does. Over time, this is what smoking will do to a tongue. It'll leave a burnt mark on a tongue. There'll be this dry part of something that's usually wet.
So tell me, present day, 2024, what time of day do you like to have sex?
Honestly, I like to have sex in the morning when I wake up. Haven't done it as frequently as I'd like to in most time. I like the idea of it. And I know this sounds clichéic. When I come home from work, I love the idea of sex right after work. I like it in the evening. Honestly, I like the idea of sex anytime.
Any time of day.
Any time of day, yes.
So the articles I was reading, majority of the people, they have sex once a week. Do you think do you think you should have sex more than once a week?
I feel like I should have sex more than once a week with my partner. I think it would be best for both of us. It would bring us closer on a more intimate, trusting, loving level, bond us together. I think because of opposite schedules, things that are going on in life is one of the reasons why we haven't had as much sex as we've had in recent time. And I feel that it's most important that we have sex whenever we can. And it doesn't matter who it is that instigates it. It should just be like a mutual, like, let's go, or I'm so happy to see you, I want to fuck you.
Ooh.
Or, you know, you haven't fucked me in a while, how come you haven't fucked me? Let's fuck now.
So that's where the mind roams.
Yeah.
So many questions.
Yeah.
It should come naturally and organically. Just.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe also the fact that, like, it would be great if, like, maybe the whole, like, concept of, like, that porn thing, or, like, just watching, like, softcore films from, like, you know, erotica from the 80s or 70s or 90s, or just, you know, movies that have, like, sexual scenes in them would be a great aspect of foreplay. I mean, I have this huge collection of, like, exploitation films from the 70s that I really would love to share with my partner, to watch with her. And, you know, I feel like sometimes we don't watch these movies. I don't know if it's because of lack of knowledge or interest, or just the wanting to watch familiar stuff for whatever reason.
So what exploitation, you said exploitation?
Exploitation films.
What movie would you recommend to the listeners, or movies?
So anything directed by either Jean Rollin or Jess Franco are excellent places to go. Last summer, I got this amazing box set of the Black Emmanuel series, which is starring Laura Gesmer. She plays the erotic photo traveling globe-trotting journalist. The Jello movies by Sergio Martino that especially star Igwe Fennick. She's an Italian actress. She has dark features. Like a lot of these, it's European films that have a little more sensuality to them than the American films, you know, where you see women in their natural state. A lot of shower scenes, a lot of naked scenes. Like even some of the old 70s, 80s pornos with plots, or just watching porn in general, or just erotic thrillers of the 90s, like the ones with Shannon Tweed and Shannon Worry, and who else was in those
God, you know your actresses.
I do. You study this stuff. Well, when you are living in an area where you're just renting movies and you don't have any connection to any human interaction because you're shy or whatever, you're kind of watching the films. And yeah. And ironically, a lot of the horror films of the 80s and 70s is where a lot of these movies had shower scenes, because there was a metaphor, the idea that, like, these movies were representing this whole, like, sex is a naughty thing, and we're reinforcing Reagan era elements, and that's what the monster would represent, like Jason or Freddy. The strict paternal instinct, that the idea that promiscuous, consensual, non-marital sex equals death, which was also a metaphor for the AIDS epidemic.
Wow, I did not know that. Oh, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
All right, next question. What have you learned about your body in the last few years that can make your sex life more fun?
I think that I'm willing to try anything. I think that I'm secure enough in myself and sexuality that I would be okay with, you know, multiple partners, even if it was like of the same sex in the room at the same time, maybe even experimenting with that member of the same sex, or perhaps a transsexual or other women. I live in New York. I don't fucking care. You know, this is the place where you're supposed to be able to be like, yeah, I'll, you know, it's New York. We'll do whatever we want, whoever we want, you know, to some extent, where, you know, if as long as it's, you know, agreed upon and boundaries are respected and whatever the element of things are, it's like, yeah. So I guess I've learned over time that I'm just confident in myself and my sexuality, that I don't care.
Wow, well, good for you. So have you had any past experiences that have negatively impact you? For instance, a bad sexual encounter.
So, how candid should I get?
As candid as you'd
Okay.
like.
So, I did experiment for a couple times, and I did, where you get a oopsie, what's this? It kind of burns down there when
Ah,
something happened. That makes you reluctant to do things sometimes.
I see.
So that was a negative experience.
I see.
Or if there was a time where, let's say, I was interacting with somebody and boundaries were not completely understood or explained to me, that was a negative experience. And it was a learning experience, and I'm aware of that now.
Mm-hmm.
So those are, I guess you could say, they're negatives that became positives.
So boundaries, like what happened? Now I'm curious.
Well, basically, like being in a situation where I was, interacting with a female, but it wasn't agreed upon or explained, or what one could and could not do with this person, and that caused some major friction for a time.
With your girlfriend?
Yes,
Got
with
it.
my girlfriend.
Got it. And this was like in a polyamory situation?
A pseudo polyamory situation.
Got it.
We've never used labels.
Got it. Got it.
Labels are a bad thing, because once you put labels on things, then all of a sudden you're confined by the labels.
I totally understand. Yeah, and then also safe sex is very important, and with that negative encounter,
Yeah.
you learned your lesson. Probably, hopefully, you went to the doctor and got treated.
I did. I was
Good.
single and at that time,
Ready
and
to mingle.
I was ready to mingle, and I mingled too hard, and I felt pain that I didn't ever want to feel again.
Oh,
That the doc does
got it.
with the urethra,
Oof.
and you get some antibiotics.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say in that situation, yes, men can even stand up on their tippy toes for a little bit of time and cringe.
So, what's one thing you've never done that you'd like to try since you're Mr. Experimentation, Mr. New York City?
Okay.
Let's experiment.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe it's from watching too much transsexual porn.
Got it.
That's one.
Uh-huh.
And the idea of, I don't know, like a gangbang scenario.
A gangbang. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Maybe something vicarious again. That's been a long time since I've interacted with something like that.
mm-hmm.
Um,
It's pretty adventurous.
I haven't done it in a long, long time.
What?
But like I used to do, like, I was a bit of an exhibitionist,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm also a bit of a voyeur.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoy both of those things, and I would go on cam and, perform on cam. I never showed my face, and I enjoyed performing on cam,
Mm-hmm.
and I've not done that in a long, long time. And
So do you consider yourself a porn star, or in your fantasy it's a porn star, or
I've done porn.
okay.
I've done, like, some pornographic scenes.
Uh-huh.
I've been a stunt cock.
A stunt cock.
Yes.
Oh my. Okay. Go you.
I don't know. I'm just open to experiences, and as crazy as this sounds, I don't know, water sports comes into mind sometimes, but it's just an idea. It's not a reality.
So the listeners who don't know what water sports are, what are you referring to? Getting pissed on or peeing on somebody?
Maybe both.
Both.
Yeah.
Oh. So water sports
Yeah.
involves getting peed on,
Yeah.
or being the recipient,
Yeah.
or the giver or the
Yeah.
receiver. Interesting. Okay. Well, that's good that, you have your fantasies
Yeah.
and, you know.
And I think like also like a public setting or something, or like an arranged meeting where like it's a date that goes to a sexual encounter with my partner, like something planned, like a pickup and go back to our place or something would be a really cool thing to do.
Like a
And
dinner date?
like a dinner date, yeah.
Ooh,
And then
okay.
the other idea of like the whole like, um, finding that other, maybe bringing another partner into the mix
Hmm.
or something like that. I know we've discussed the idea of like, multiple partners or something, but it's an idea, it's not a reality. And then like when you think of the actual logistics of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think of all my friends and acquaintances that were in polyamorous relationships, the minute they called themselves poly, they kind of self-doomed themselves in certain situations. But then a lot of them also were able to be respectful for a really long time.
So what do you mean self-doomed? Like, are they no longer in their relationship or are
Some of
they...
them are no longer with their principals,
Got
their
it.
main primary person that they would be in, or they would, define themselves by this kind of idea that like we're poly, we're poly, we're poly, we're looking for other people, and this is all we're about, nothing else. Like that kind of defined who they were.
Got it.
Again, the
Got
label
it.
thing.
Got it. Got it. So, last question of the night. What allows you to feel most comfortable and present during a sexual encounter? See?
I think for me to be present in a sexual encounter is to be right there in that moment and feel uninhibited
Mm-hmm.
in the moment and like wanting to use every aspect of myself and wanting my partner to reciprocate the same feelings and motions and actions. And I think also like for myself not be self-conscious,
Mm-hmm.
and then also for both of us to be aware that like the various things that like we need for stimulation to get aroused, um, we love and we enjoy, and then hope that our partner doesn't feel, I'm trying to find the right word here, um, doesn't hold back,
Mm-hmm.
like we're both present in the moment, and then if we're both present in that sexual moment, then it should be fantastic.
Excellent. Wow, well, that wraps it up. This was so great to hear your viewpoint on sex and your sex life, past and present. And do you have any tips for the listeners out there?
Be yourself.
Be
Be your
yourself.
genuine sexual self.
Ooh.
Don't be afraid to communicate with your partner
Mm-hmm.
about anything sexually.
That's amazing. So thank you so much for doing this little Q&A. And thank you all very much for tuning in and listening. And again, be sure to spread the word and subscribe today. Thank you all and have a good day.